Good morning, good morning, good morning. Today it's Wednesday, hump day. Well, I don't know about hump day after the holiday weekend, but we're rolling into today's show. We're going to talk about minimalism and how we've we've seen people starting to take this on more and more with reducing the amount of stuff they have, and there's many psychological studies backing with people who have less stuff tend to be less stressed. So let's go ahead and we're going to dive into minimalism and some of the benefits or how to's to kind of go about learning about minimalism and where can we start and what are some of the things that we can go ahead and get out of this. So first off, I would say minimalism, I don't like I don't think it needs to be such a hard label like, "Oh, I'm a minimalist," or, I'm not connected to that stuff. I don't identify with that, et cetera, et cetera. However, just kind of let's sit back in our own position and think about when things are cluttered up, our spaces aren't as useful. We just got done talking about setting up your own workspace and decluttering it, organizing it. And a lot of times it comes back around to, wow, we have a lot of stuff that I don't think is totally necessary to have around. I don't really need to have this. It's broken, it's not fixed. So let's go ahead and have a little bit of a deep dive. I'm going to share an article on just some basic tips and tricks that I found very useful, and then I can kind of just convey my own experiences with not having a lot of stuff and see where we can bounce some ideas at. And then you, as we're listening, kind of thinking, is there anything I could probably get rid of that I don't really need? And the incredible amount of saving the money that we spend on random bullshit that doesn't really serve us any purpose, or kind of trying to go the quality, not quantity route. And that is actually one of our tips for today. Well, without any further ado, let's go ahead and share the screen, the handy dandy screen, and try and pull up some tips. This one article is pretty good, so that will work. Okay. Share screen. It's trippy. All right, let's get it. Let's go back up a little bit. Okay, setting up zones. I think this kind of goes with declutter one room at a time. So when it comes to getting started, I would argue that that is the hardest part about doing anything is getting started. So today, if you're just thinking on this decluttering ideology, and you want to try and strive to be a little bit more like a minimalist, so things don't feel so chaotic, stressful, and overall just management and like places of storage. Like garages are nice places to hang out when they're done right and they're set up properly. Or some people can't even use their garage for their car because they have so much shit in there. So starting with one room at a time, I think this is probably the best way about it. Don't think you need to spend one weekend, and by the end of it, by Sunday evening, you need to be a minimalist and you need to not have anything that is unnecessary. That is not true, and I wouldn't beat yourself up too much about it. It's more so just getting started. Maybe starting with a spare bedroom. That'd be a good start. Or starting with what we were talking about, a garage, and replacing these rooms and having these uses of function. And as we've seen specifically over the last 2 years, we've had to rely on our homes for activities and spaces of use. And I think this is good motivation to kind of get started on this kind of stuff, the reorganizing, the just the purging of stuff that we don't necessarily need. So, great tip number coming in right here would be decluttering one room at a time. Remember, you do not need to completely declutter and get rid of all your shit by 5 p.m. tonight. Just get started, pick a room, be intentional, have a plan, decluttering one room at a time. So get rid of the next one. This one's a great one. Get rid of anything broken. Like, by God, half the stuff that's taking up like a third of your living space isn't even usable, functionable, hasn't been in commission in years. And nowadays, with how many, like, spring cleaning, it being the spring season, maybe checking out spring cleaning, maybe you can sell a few of these things on there. I mean, if it's broken, I suppose. And if it's broken, this mentality that I paid money for that, so I have to hold on to that. If it's broken and not using, it's actually costing you more to keep it around than it would be to throw it away. So maybe think, is there anything that's taking up a lot of space that I paid a lot of money for, but it is literally broken and I am not going to use it ever again? Just get rid of it. Just get it out of there and create some more space for yourself. Just getting rid of anything broken. Great tip. Eliminate unworn clothing. This one is yeah, I'm sure I'm going to say that for a lot of these. These are all really good starter ones. Eliminate unworn clothing. Like, if you do not wear these clothes, you see like a box of winter clothes that haven't literally been touched in 7 years. And they're like, yeah, but Tanner, fashion's a cycle. It's going to come back. And then I'm going to be looking hot. It's like, okay, I get what you're saying. Fashion's a cycle. That's cool. That's correct. Technically, you got me there. But the amount of space in storage, like, are you paying for storage to just store tons of clothes, or like we were talking about earlier, broken items? Just that much more money each month that you could be investing into other things like personal care. I'm not even saying like of course, I would say you should invest in rental properties, you should invest in coaching, all, but maybe even treating yourself with, instead of paying for storage for a bunch of stuff you don't need, maybe once a month you pay for a massage, or you do something, or a pedicure. I don't know, something that's soothing back to you and that's to your benefit as a replacement to work on you to make a better version of you. Because that's the style that we ride with here on this show. So eliminating unworn clothing that you literally haven't worn in a year. You don't need it. You're not going to wear it again. Go donate it to Salvation Army. You can take it to Goodwill. I'm just saying that Goodwill is a big corporation and they make a shitload of money off of people just giving clothes. Just saying. But if that's a route to get rid of it and they can get rid of it at a cheaper price to help someone else in need at a low price, that's cool too. Just look about it, think about it, and let's go through our clothes this spring and say, that one's got a few holes. That I don't even really like that shirt. I haven't worn it in 3 years. I have 9 pairs of them. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. So just getting rid of clothing that you do not wear. Picking a number of clothes. We don't need to get too much into it. Hangers too. I mean, yeah, I just see people with tons and tons of hangers. And if you have less hangers, then I guess you'd have less clothing items, or that's the mindset that they're kind of going for here in this article. Going through your shoes. Ladies, I see a lot of shoes and I don't ever see them worn. And not that guys don't collect shoes, but I just personally, a lot of my friends who are girls, I see like 40 pairs of shoes and most of them haven't been worn in years. I mean, literal dust on these bad boys. And it's like, oh, but that goes with that one outfit. I'm a dude. My fashion isn't super great. You've seen me wear this shirt on this show probably like 7 times. So it's like, Tanner, you don't know anything about fashion. And you're probably right. So take that with a grain of salt. I'm just saying, if it's taking up a lot of space and a lot of unneed and you don't need them, maybe you could donate those pairs of shoes to someone who would actually wear them more often. Socks and undergarments. Eliminate unused kitchen appliances. Lots of pots and pans, and just like 7 pots of the same exact size. They're like, Yeah, but what if we need to use all of them? It's like, when have you ever used all of them? And realistically, if you want the benefit of being a minimalist and you want the benefit of utilizing and maximizing your space, these are the type of things you need to let go of. You don't need 30 of the same thing. And let's just be real. There's a comes in a time and a place where it's just a hindrance on everybody. It's a hindrance. Your spending is literally a hindrance on like what it is you're doing. I like gifts and that's nice and all, but definitely on the side of less is more. Too many plates and cups. Get rid of doubles. Yeah, we'll see like 9 of the same thing. And it's like, yeah, that was a good deal. And it's like, yeah, how was that a good deal? They're like, I saved 90% on that. It's like, you still spent 10% when you could be investing it in something else, a meaningful experience, a vacation with your children. It's the experiences and I'm sure there will be a tip on here about experiences. I'd rather throw all my money on being able to take flights and be able to go up to the Canadian Rockies and be able to have like fine dining experiences with my family than any type of having like 7 of the same cups. But just understand, when we spend that money, it kind of adds up over time. Shop quality, not quantity. And there's this old adage, you get what you pay for. Totally agree with it. I think at the end of the day, I used to really not like, well, I still don't like spending money on clothes, but I'd rather spend a little more money on one really nice shirt that's going to last a long time and I'll wear it a lot versus 7 shirts that I don't even really like and I'm not really going to ever wear them. So just maybe taking on more of the mentality of you get what you pay for, and let's shop more quality and not quantity, because the space that we have as people, especially as there's more and more people, it's harder and harder to get houses, harder to get space. Storage is more and more expensive. Then really that quality versus quantity can really help with that. Throw away outdated food. This is especially with older generations, not to put labels on certain generations or whatever, but in my experience, a lot of older generations, their parents went through the Great Depression and stuff, so they went without, and they're literally hoarding up a third of the cabinetry in their house with a bunch of old rotten food that's dated from 2019. It's 2020. Oh shoot, who am I kidding? They're like from 2016 cans of foods that expired and they're nasty. So go through and see if there's any outdated food that you could throw away, stuff that you don't need along those lines. Donated unwanted food that is still fresh. Maybe this could be an opportunity for us to give. Life is about giving. And so maybe a bunch of this unwanted food, because you're like, okay, I am going to go on a diet and I'm going to eat healthy foods and fuel my body, because what I eat dictates how I feel. If you put good gasoline in the car, motor runs pretty good. If you put a bunch of bullshit in it, it's probably going to gunk up and need some maintenance, right? A doctor's checkup, surgeries, all this other bullshit. So just because you spent money on food and then your life has evolved and you've grown and changed to a better version of yourself, because we know diet is so fundamental to feeling good, get rid of it. It's a sunk cost. I'd rather you spend the money on the front end and donate it to somebody else in need who just needs something in their belly. And then you go more of the route of like quality, more holistic along those lines. It's already sunk cost. There's no reason. And just now that you're aware of it, just because you spent money on it doesn't mean you should still shove it down your gullet. Other expired products, toys. I mean, some of my clients, their parents and their kids have grown and they've moved on, and then they just have all these toys around that no one ever uses, and it just takes up a shitload of space. Well, maybe that would be a good idea and an opportunity to donate, to give. Maybe there's a daycare or someone who could use the toys more often. Maybe there's some type of like Salvation Army in the area, or maybe there's just other opportunities or around Christmas time, you could put a couple bows on them. I know I was part of this Christmas last year. We gave a bunch of, it was Christmas for kids, and we gave a bunch of kids out toys. And you just set up maybe a rummage sale where it's free, just free toys for children. If you bring a kid, you get to pick a toy. And I promise you'll get a lot of more joy, both out of just seeing a child smile and take it and go use it and go use, instead of just collecting dust and taking up a bunch of space and clutter and causing stress in your own life. Get a toy, reduce toiletries. Yeah, I mean, seeing in some people's bathrooms, this in this example, 15 different shampoo bottles. Like, yeah, just stop buying shampoo until you use up the stuff you got. Or if you don't need it, again, donate it, throw it away, get rid of it. Bath towels, donating books. If books take up, I personally, this is one of my hiccups, is I like to collect books. And I'm pretty much a minimalist with everything else, but I do genuinely like to collect books, and it takes up a decent chunk of space. And that's the trade-off I'm willing to have. But if books take up a lot of space and you don't actually read them and they don't do you any good and they kind of just sit there and they take up a lot of space, maybe consider donating them. You see around any town, even where I live in a pretty small town, you see these little libraries. Maybe someone would actually read it and benefit the knowledge. Maybe talk to a local, call a library and be like, hey, I have all these books. I don't know what to do with them. I'd imagine a library would know what to do with them. So maybe possibly donating some books. Make use of a library. So if you don't want to buy books, there's this really cool thing where you can call a book. You can call a library and you can say, do you have this book? I want to read this book. Say your friend made a recommendation. You're watching one of these show episodes and we talked about a book like this one is absolutely fire. It's called The Gap in the Gain. I really like this book. And say if you want to read this book and you can't afford to, you're a broke entrepreneur, you're just getting either started or you're too cheap to pay any money for books. You don't want to do that. Well, thankfully you can call a library and say, hey, I want to read this book. And if they don't have it, then they can order the book from a different library that has the book. Hell yeah. And it's cheap, it's easy, it's free. And then you give the book back and you have the knowledge ready to go. Maybe just take some notes along the way as you're working through it. And then you move on with it. Fantastic, fantastic. Decreasing knickknacks. I literally don't own, I don't want to say none. I got to have at least a couple, but virtually less than, I'm sure it's less than 5 knickknacks. I don't feel the need for them. And I get it. They make a house look cute and stuff like that. But I personally think I'm better off not having the stuff, not having to worry about what to do with the stuff, where to place the stuff and all that jazz. So decreasing knickknacks, I guess in your own position, thinking like, okay, are there knickknacks around the house? Do I need them? Do I actually want them? That kind of stuff. And then get rid of something. Or how do they kind of put it here? The key is to look at each knickknack through the lens of whether it brings value to your life. If it doesn't bring you any value, get rid of it. If it does, keep it. But going through and making that logical decision for yourself can do you a lot of good. Creating a filing system, very good. We talked about in a previous episode, organizing, getting filings out, decluttering your organizational space, because a lot of times old paperwork that doesn't matter anymore, especially in this digital world, then it can just kind of create a lot of stuff in space. Use storage containers to help digitize photos and digitize things in general. So whether it's like movies, downloading a movie or having it off of, I see people with these huge trays of movies and stuff like that they haven't watched in years, and it's just taking up a bunch of space, collecting dust. And then next, eliminating plastic bags. Yeah, those go in the ocean. So if we can try and reduce that a little bit, that's our turtle friends will totally appreciate us. Take advantage of wall space. And we talked about those storage shelves and stuff like that you can use to help maximize the space. and one in, one out. When you get something new, something old has to go. This might even, it's just great in general as a principle to see what it is that you actually need, what it is that you actually want to have, and kind of that balance of one in, one out. It'll just help with the rhythm and the flow of things. Because if more things come in that go out, we're eventually going to run out of space and it's going to get a little built up and too cluttered. Writing down your purchases. This is something I'm sure 99% of us won't do, but even if one of us just do this and we have more awareness of it, I look over my banking statements personally just to see where's my money going. It's a good thing to do. I do it once a month, and that's it. I do it on a Sunday usually, and I just sit down there, kind of look, scroll through, and I'm kind of, and you usually find a pattern. They're like, okay, I'm spending $80 a month on these things that actually don't do anything for me. And I could be investing that money for my future children, for people who I really care about, good things along those lines. Clear out every few months. And we're just talking about the checking in on your spending. That's a good way to gauge it because it's so easy to have that stuff go out the door. So these are some tips on minimalism. I just appreciate it greatly. Let's go back to, we can remove that looking freaky. Sorry about that. So just looking at opportunities for when we can get rid of stuff. Are there anything around here that we just simply don't need anymore? How can we take advantage of this? And the biggest, when we look at some of our greatest religious figure, I usually go back to Buddhism myself under principle that they get rid of absolutely everything. Do I believe that you shouldn't own anything and have any physical objects and how they can't have any meaning to you? Hell no. Like, some stuff's really cool and we should keep it. What I'm saying is let's raise our awareness on how much bullshit we're grabbing, how much money we're spending on this bullshit, because it's really hurting ourselves. And not only hurting ourselves, but it's hurting future generations. There's a reason why generational wealth exists. And a lot of times it's the difference between people who just blow all of it and versus people who put it away. They live by the value of just representation and the true value of things, and they wear them out and they use them and then they give off to the next person. Because there seems to be this shock. Like, what? Why doesn't little Timmy like anything? He doesn't care about anything. And it's like, well, little Timmy for 30 years just watched you take shit, grab it, play with it for 30 seconds, throw it in the garage. Don't need it, don't care. And then go on to the next thing. Oh, yeah, these clothes are out of fashion. They look lame. Go buy 12 more and then don't do anything with it. So, I mean, if we can get rid of some clothes, or we can just put more value in the things that we do have and have appreciation for them, that can help feed us internally and help us reduce stress and maximize our space for other things that are really fun. Like here, back at home in Illinois, we're really efficient with the garage. It's a fun space. We have some games out there. We have a bar out there. I can park my car in there, and it's used for what it's supposed to be used for. And that's nice. And that makes me feel good. So ask yourself, where could I start? What is the one room that could use a little bit of awareness, a little bit of digging through to see if there's stuff that we can get rid of, declutter, organize, and start purging a little bit to help increase those more helpful habits of focusing on the things that really matter and saving and giving back. Especially like if you don't donate to charity at all and you just have a bunch of stuff, maybe this is your opportunity to give back and to feel it, because man, the secret to living is giving. It truly is. So maybe you just donate some clothes, you give back some toys, you do something to give something to somebody and see what it does for you. See if it feels good. See if it's a fun activity for you. So that's it for today's show. We're wrapping up. Tips on becoming a minimalist. I'm not saying you have to go by an extreme rule. Like if I can't fit everything I own into my Ford Fusion, I won't own it. And I'm not saying you need to go to that extreme, but again, maybe finding something in the middle. Maybe using your garage space for what it's actually for, or maybe turning your basement into an escape room where it's fun and there's a lounging place for you to go and relax and read. I don't know. It's up to us. Let's have fun with it. Let's keep decluttering, keep organizing the spring, using spring cleaning to get rid of shit, Facebook Marketplace, all these amazing tools, and see what we can do for ourselves. Thank you all so much. Happy hump day. And we're on to the next day, Thursday. And I will be checking back in with you guys and seeing you Thursday, 5:30 Mountain Standard Time, as we are still out playing in the Canadian Rockies. I will see you guys all tomorrow, Thursday, 5 a.m. Mountain Time. Until next time.